Namaste, bro. Today we're going to talk about yoga. Hello and welcome back to this channel. I'm sorry, I had to start it like that. One of the reasons I'm making this video is because I was the person that, kind of rejected yoga for so long, especially as a spiritual practice. And a lot of times because the people that represent yoga now can often come off as very douchey. I wish my hair was long enough. I would have had it in like a man bun and had I should have gotten some kombucha before I got out here. But truly, yoga has become very popular. You know about yoga. And so the reason I want to make this video with you today is because I was a yoga skeptic, especially when it comes to a spiritual practice. And when I was staying 30 days in England's most pagan town, Glastonbury, I decided to put myself through a spiritual challenge to see if I could live the most spiritual life possible. And yoga became a part of that. And so my challenge to myself was to do yoga every single day for 30 days to see if it was something that could change my life. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you my reflections, experiences, and my determinations on whether yoga can actually lead to a more spiritual life. Let's talk about history. So the history of yoga is quite fascinating. I'm not going to cover it all in this video because it's really long. It goes back like 5,000 years, which is really crazy. And what I think about when I hear 5,000 years old, that means at the same time people were building Stonehenge, building the pyramids of Giza, that people were in ancient India were practicing yoga. They were doing the downward dog. But from what I can tell in history, yoga didn't start necessarily as a physical health practice. Like, yes, it was there, but the meaning behind yoga was as a ritual, was as a way to spiritually connect to the gods, to the ancestors, and to the spirits. Another thing to note here is with Indo-European migrations, there might have been versions of yoga being carried along with those migrations into Europe. So there is a possibility that some form of yoga existed during the Indo-European cultures. And of course you might say, well, we didn't see any examples of that surviving in, to the Viking Age or to the Druids, where the Druids doing yoga. But I would also counter that by saying there are actually some figures from the very ancient past that show yoga-like positions, such as Cernunnos sitting there cross-legged with the oath ring and the snake. This looks very yoga-like to me, very Indo-European, and I think a lot of people have mentioned that the Gundestrup cauldron does look very like Far Eastern rather than European. But we see that with a lot of the artifacts because of the migrations from the East. Also in the Scandinavian front, you have the statue of what people assume is Freyr, sitting similar to this with his hand right here and a massive erection. Now again, this might not necessarily look like a yoga pose, but we're seeing a cross-legged figure, a masculine cross-legged figure, especially with the symbol of fertility being in there. That could be references to, tantric yoga or the tantric energies. I don't actually know that for the point of this video, but I know there's sex involved to some degree with yoga. And so again, we're looking at a figure cross-legged that, boom, there's something here. So I'm just saying, don't discount the fact that we have this image of what the Druids were, what the Vikings were, and you can say, oh, they didn't do any form of yoga or anything like that. But I think there is a little bit of a whisper to say that there might have been something in the ancient past, and it's important to remember that culture and societies have changed so much since the Indo-European migrations, and the entire history of Northern Europe, of the world, is of migration after migration after migration. And so there is a possibility, is all I'm saying, and I think that's pretty darn cool. Actually, let's talk about modern history of yoga. I think this is why a lot of people struggle with it. This is why I struggle with it for so long, is because once yoga came to the United States in the 20th century, it became very commercialized. Now, it came originally with the hippie movements, it came with the health and wellness movements, and then around the 2000s, it exploded and became a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I think once yoga became a multi-billion-dollar industry, it changed forever. Because then you have something that was originally a spiritual practice coming into money. And just like Christianity and megachurches, just like any religion that becomes so infused with money, it starts to take away from it and people get into it for the wrong reasons. Now, this isn't necessarily a wholly bad thing at getting introduced into the West. I think this is a very natural process. It's something that everyone would benefit from. And one of the benefits that have come out of it getting introduced into the West is it being studied for science and its actual benefits. And the benefits of doing yoga are recorded, researched, and known. You know, it's a long list. Like I can't even list it all in this video. But obviously, the benefits to your health, your circulation, to your mental health, to your blood flow, to your muscles, to stretching, to just your mindfulness, to your breath. Like there's a whole bunch of things that yoga can help with, and it's helped me out a lot. But with that, let's go ahead and get into my journey and how yoga has benefited me, especially in my 30-day experiment in Glastonbury. Well, I gotta say, I really do not like doing yoga every single day. To me, it kind of ruined its specialness. Like, I really enjoy doing yoga as a way to, like, relax the body, to stretch the muscles and all that. But I felt like when I was doing it every single day, I was starting to hate it. And this could just be me. And so what I would recommend to you, the viewer, if you want to get into this, don't try to necessarily do yoga every single day. I know I fell into that pitfall when I first got into this. Obviously I did a 30-day experiment with it. But now, it's been about 6 months since that time in Glastonbury, and I do actually do yoga. I do yoga maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And I think doing it 2 to 3 times a week actually can lead to a more spiritual life. To me, there are 3 things that we have to work on as far as health. We have to work on our physical, mental, and spiritual health. And for me, for the longest time, I didn't work on my physical health. And again, luckily, so many people have noticed that I have lost a lot of weight. I have lost around 50 pounds. But I haven't gone into my health journey looking to lose weight. I went into it to be healthier. And yoga is the way that I've gotten healthier when it comes to the muscles, my tension, and where I store the stress in my body. I recorded a little section back in Glastonbury I'll share with you now, particularly for the men watching this video, but also affects the women when it comes to the pelvic floor.
I think there's this kind of idea that yoga is more of the women's thing. You see, and it's true, there are a lot more women that do yoga than men. It's kind of seen as like the gym, powerlifting, that's the man thing. Yoga is the women thing. And I think this is a concept that needs to be broken down because for me, the reason I got into yoga is for the pelvic floor. A lot of men store their stress, this is where it gets awkward, in the pelvic floor, down there. That's where we store our stress a lot of the time, guys. And that's why I got into yoga, is I noticed that all my stress was starting to build here. And I've talked to a lot of men over this, over the last few years, and it seems like a lot of men don't realize it. But there's just generally a tightness down here. And the moment you start doing, even like something like this, like a butterfly pose, putting your feet like this and stretching this out down here. I think when I first started doing this, I was like, like this, and it was really awkward. But now I can, really tuck it in and kind of fold over it. And I've just noticed how much looser it is in the pelvic floor region. And I think, again, this is just an uncomfortable conversation as men don't necessarily want to talk about the pelvic floor. But truly, I think it's something that is really healthy.
Oh, hey, it's just me hanging out here. While we're here, why don't we talk a little bit about my book that I wrote during my time in Glastonbury. So Glastonbury really inspired me. It's a weird, amazing town. So much so that I decided to write a fictional book a lot about my spiritual journeys. And while it is a fiction, it's based on my time in Glastonbury and a lot of the things that I've learned along the way. And so if you're interested in picking up this book and supporting this channel, please think about buying this book on Amazon. It helps so much. It helps me continue to do weird stuff. And genuinely, I think it's a really good book with a lot of great lessons in there. So yeah, think about supporting me on Amazon. It's great. And yeah, let's get back to this video before I break my neck. And so I think a lot of you probably watching this video were like me. I mean, my channel has been about paganism ever since its beginning. And I've been getting a little bit more into the new agey stuff, the spiritual movements, because they have helped me to some degree. And I figured I would report on them. As a skeptic, I was a yoga skeptic forever. I dated someone who was like a multi-hundred level yoga instructor for years and would barely do yoga. And it wasn't until, after that relationship, it wasn't until I got into my own practice, my own needs, and especially with the pelvic floor. Like I was going to the doctor all the time with UTI issues, which I'm opening up more on this channel about. I think I'm making a few videos about it now because I think it is important. Because when we're disconnected from our physical health, we will be disconnected from our spiritual health. And so while I don't think you're necessarily going to achieve enlightenment if you start doing yoga every single day, I did it for 30 days straight. I don't think I achieved enlightenment. I didn't feel I had any spiritual breakthroughs. But by doing it 2 to 3 times a week, I've helped connect more to my physical health. So how can you introduce yoga into your life? Well, it's important to remember I am not a yoga instructor. I just simply do yoga. And as people are probably judging this video, not great, but okay. And I think how I got into it, I balanced going to actual classes and doing online courses as well. Like there are so many videos on YouTube on how to do yoga, and do beginner ones, don't get crazy with it, and do what works for your body. When I first got into this, I had absolutely no flexibility whatsoever. And now it's gotten a lot better, and that's something I really like. And so I think it is something that can help you. And so I recommend taking a class at least for the first couple of times, but those classes can end up being a lot like boot camps. And I've taken a few that I absolutely hated because they're like, all right, get down, go down, get up, like go, double dog down, up, down, go, oh, cry, you know. I've been to a few like that. And so I recommend trying to find one that is a little bit more spiritually leaning. I think yin yoga, typically people are a little bit more spiritual because it's slower. So if you've never done yoga before, find a beginner class and try a few of them out. You don't have to do classes every single time, it does get expensive. But there's plenty, like tons of online videos, a lot of them made during COVID, unsurprisingly, that you can watch to help you do yoga in the mornings. I typically, I mean, that's the other thing with classes. A lot of time classes are like an hour long, like holy shit, that's way too long for me to do yoga. I aim for 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week, and this has been the great mix and balance for me, and hopefully it'll help you out too. During my yoga practice, I have tried to make it a little bit more spiritual because, like I said, it feels a little bit more passive in nature at times. And so during the mornings, it's a really great thing to get me out into nature, even if it's just outside where I'm staying, and getting some sun on my body, enjoying the cooler mornings. When it comes to like the sun, I'm actually sitting back and saying like, you know, my gratitudes for the day. You know, I'm grateful for the sun, grateful for the food in my belly, grateful for this beautiful earth, grateful for the gods, for the ancestors, for the spirits, for my guides. It gives me that moment, and I don't usually have that every single day. You know, I live a fairly spiritual life for the most part, but yoga can be that reminder for us to be grateful and to have a moment of reflection on the gods that guide us, on the spirits around us, and the ancestors that got us here. I have several more videos in this series, including ones on cold exposure, on ritual and trance, on meditation, so make sure you go back and check those videos as well, and follow along for more of my spiritual life series, my videos on paganism, and how it survives today, and how it existed in the ancient past. Thank you, and until I see you in the next video here at the Wisdom of Namaste, bro.